Alright, so it's been probably at least a month or even 2 months since the first video I made kind of walking through the TSS stuff. Today I'm going to show you guys just taking apart the 350Z diff a little bit and installing it in the subframe, just mock-up fit, just to show you how it looks and what bolts and what spacers to use, because the TSS stuff all comes in different bags, so sometimes it's confusing to figure out what bolts go where. So I'll show you a couple different bolts that go in the kit and just how it slips into the T-bar section of the subframe before you put the whole thing into the rear subframe. So I will do that. Dang, broke a bit. So this side is a little bit different. I'm not sure if one bushing was replaced in the past or not or something, but it has on the bottom a little metal ring at the bottom of the bushing that you also have to drill through. And then the top's the same as this side was, but having a little bit more time drilling through all the layers because there's also a metal ring somewhere in the middle. Alright, got this center section out after a lot of drilling and hammering. Here you can see that there's a lip on it. So a lot of times when you're drilling through, you'll hit that lip and it's pretty thick. And this side, like I was saying, has a metal ring around the bottom of it that I drilled through a few times and ended up just hammering it straight down through. So now I'm going to take a Sawzall, which all I have is wood blades right now. I worked on the first one. I'm going to ruin a blade and cut in there a little bit, and once I split it, it should fall right out like the other one. Let's see if that worked. I think it did, actually. Yep, it's moving already. Cool. See, I actually didn't, here's the main section that I cut. I actually didn't even cut through this one all the way. It just finally started to go. So, and as for the inside of the diff, hit the edge of the wall right there. Everywhere else is totally fine, so decent job overall. Now I'm going to get it in the subframe, or the front T-bar by itself, just to show you how it fits up. Alright, here's the frame. See, the two front ears are going to sit in these little cups he has built in, and then actually takes 4 of the lower bolts from the rear cover, so I'm going to pull the bolts out right now. Alright, pretty crusty. I go back and forth a couple times on the impact just to loosen them up. So let's set it in there. It is pretty hard to line all these up and kind of hold the diff up in the air. As you can see, we're still not sitting in here, and I don't have these tight yet. So I'm going to tap the front of the diff with mallet and see if I can get it to slide back before I start ripping those tight. Okay, that's actually in. So I'll show you real quick. Obviously not tight. I'd have to throw the bolts with the little plates in there, but if you can see here, we got it up against that flange. Same with the bottom. So it is very tight. I mean, I thought about cutting those out at first and then shaving a bushing down. Those do fit pretty well. You can see there's a little bit of daylight. I don't know if I can show it without the light. Those aren't perfectly tight to the diff, which if they were, it'd probably be even harder to get it on there. But I'm just going to put my solid bushings on top, and I'm going to get the bottom ones laid down if I do decide to cut those rings out and run just eccentric to the hole with 2 solid 350Z bushings in here rather than just the top one. Here is the bolt that sits in the subframe. I have a screwdriver holding the back side of the bolt, but it sits in there pretty deep, so you need a deep well socket. So this is the piece that goes on top. I had it powder coated, and it's just a nut welded to a plate. It sits up just like that. And as you can see here, I still have a little bit of open space there that would get pinched down, and the bolt's, maybe halfway through that nut. Definitely probably put some Loctite on that, but I think what I'm going to do is lathe down a couple of solid bushings, just like some like SBL bushings or something like that, because I'd like more support inside this hole than just that lip that is welded to the frame. It'd be nice to be, fully eccentric through that diff hole, so I'm going to probably lathe up the bushings, and that way it has more support than just being pinched down. That way it's centered, so. Alright, so I pulled the cover off. Just looking at the ring gear just to confirm. This came out of a automatic G35. So, if you can see that, it says 47.14. Like I said, automatic G35 X, actually the all-wheel drive version. Doesn't matter if it's all-wheel drive or not, it's still the same diff. And anything that's automatic, 350Z or G35 will be 3.35 diff, 3.35. So that's the tallest one they have. They also have a 3.5 something that comes in all the stick 350Zs. So this is the tall one. My ratios are going to be pretty crazy. I did the math on the computer, and basically with the AR5 that I'm using, which is just a 5-speed out of a Chevy Colorado, 5th gear is going to be like 190 something, like really high. So we'll see how it likes like the extremely tall gear. Hopefully for drifting, 2nd should be pretty good, and 3rd hopefully isn't too long, and 4th will probably be way too long to use for really anything except like a really big track. I hope to find another diff, that way I could swap them out if I want, because all I really need to do is unbolt just the T-bar from the car and unbolt the back of the diff, the top covers on the diff actually. So the T-bar bolts right here, as I showed you earlier, and then it actually uses these top 2 bolts in the rear subframe itself, on top of using the big bolt in the rear subframe. So it's got a few different attachment points, but if I pull these 3 bolts off the subframe and then just pull the 2 front bolts off the T-bar, I can pull the whole diff out of the car with the T-bar and swap diffs over. One last thing I wanted to show was the Villains diff plates for welding diffs. That's just going to sit, right up in there. So you can see it almost sits right in the teeth too, the little planetary gears in there. So that should weld up really nice when I get the chance to weld it. And obviously I have 2, one for each side. I'll probably end up showing you guys a little bit of the car too. So I'm finally taking apart the rear end and test fitting like the TSS knuckles as well. And pretty soon here I'll unbolt the Subaru subframe and the Subaru T-bar and get all that stuff going. So that's upstairs, and I'll show you guys that as well. I got it all jacked up right now because I'm pulling the stock Subaru knuckles are out, or at least on this side. I've been test fitting some of the TSS stuff. I got it sitting over here with all the old Subaru stuff. I'll show you the wheels. Oh, I just got them back from powder coat. I always wanted to do the pink and green JDM boy colors. They look awesome. Nate and Dolan at Broke Studs Powder Coating did them for me. I put 235/40 17 on a 17 by 8.5 Enki. That's like plus 30. I'll probably have to run like a 10mm spacer or something. It rubs a little bit on the front of the wheel well, but it's all the weight's on the front since it's jacked up, so it doesn't sit that close when the car is level on the ground. I'll put a picture in because I put a picture on it before I started taking it apart. So I'll put that in here, showing it on the ground in the sunlight with the rear wheels, which are right over here. There's my BMW. Yeah, here's the bright greens, which also look super cool. These are 18 by 9.5 plus 15. I put the 265/35 Kendas on there, and they look sweet, look really meaty. And I also put a 265 on these SSRs I picked up off eBay a couple weeks ago, SSR GT7s. So for Subaru guys, they look exactly like ProDrive PFF7s. Pretty much the same exact spoke pattern and everything. And there's my old Volk GTCs with tiny 215s on them. Eventually I'll get a set of 255s probably for those. But those are both pretty cool. And then here's the LS1. So that's what's going in the car. I've been test fitting just the Canton front sump, and I got some other accessories sitting over there. But this is coming apart still because that is a head stud, as you can see right there, and you come straight down and there's a huge hole. There's only about probably 3 threads of full engagement, and I bought it like this and didn't notice. What happens is if you put head studs in and you take your old bolts out and you just put the head studs right in, it can have water in there, coolant in there, old Loctite, whatever, and it's a blind hole, so there's a bottom to it, and if it's full of a bunch of liquid and crap, it'll hydrolock. So you jam a bolt down in there and the pressure has nowhere to go, so it's going to go out the side. I'm pretty mad about it because I didn't notice it until I brought the engine home. So I have a spare 5.3 block that's it's like the LC9, the aluminum 5.3. So I'm going to take this one apart and probably try to get those patched. People say it can be patched pretty easily. And then I'll get the 5.3 board out to 5.7, which is technically a Gen 4 block. So technically I have a Gen 4 with all Gen 3 internals, fresh LS1. So I'll put, you know, the stock crank, stock rings, or I'll probably change the rings, but stock pistons and stock rods. So that should be a nice fresh LS1. So that should be cool. I'm still excited about it. It was just a little setback, but I already had a spare block. So I will clean this one up and try to get it fixed and put the Gen 4 in there instead. That's it for this video probably. Next time I hope to be welding the diff. I'll paint it and probably start to put more of the rear end stuff in the car. So we will get going on that, and I'll try to show you as much of the TSS stuff as I can because there's not a lot of info out there. I've had help from a couple other people that have been working on the car as well across the country. There's just a couple things as you go along you might get stumped on, or stuff might not look like it fits right. And there's a lot of different pieces that come with it if you end up buying a whole rear end kit or a whole front end kit or all of them together. So I'll keep trying to show it a little bit as I work on it, and that way you can see just exactly how it works and how it goes together and how I like it. So check it out next time, and I'll have more of the rear end stuff on, probably.